Hello, good evening, good afternoon, and good morning, everyone, depending where you are. Welcome to Connect Africa to our bi-weekly session every Tuesday and Thursday here with Kwame Gonza, where we analyze what's happening in the continent and globally, anything that is related to Africa or that impacts Africa. So tonight our topic is on the new president-elect of Nigeria, Bola Ahmed Tinubu. He's just 3 weeks, almost 3 weeks in office. We have done our analysis. I think a week ago or 10 days before. We are here again. Welcome, Kwame.
Thank you very much, Mahlet. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Thank you so much. Greetings to everyone who's watching. We thank you for being with us every week. Those ones who have been faithful with us, who have been supporting the channel. We are very glad and very grateful. Like we have said, we are not only doing these presentations here, which we bring you every week. Of course, they are very important. That's why we bring them every week on Tuesday and Thursday. And so you should be here to support. But we are also on the ground. We try to engage in the real work, which is of organizing on the grassroots, on the ground, and also engaging the various leadership structures on the continent. We are doing that with the different other organizations like the PLO Lumumba Foundation, the Africa Continental Unity Party. These are all Pan-African organizations which are working for the good of the African people. Global African Congress, UK. So all these organizations are working together with Connect Africa. So we are glad to be part of that generation and that group of people, that group of young people, especially the youth, who are pushing for the good of Africa, for a new, crop of leadership that we are hoping that should come out of the African continent. So you have to come and support the work which we are doing. You have to come and be part of us. Be the, the support, the anchor. Be that anchor which is required to support the work which we are doing. So I want to thank you very much, and stick with us as we dissect into President Bola Tinubu, who has started, of course, his term. And he has started, of course, what he himself and his administration are calling shaking up things. But we want to see really, is this shaking up of things helping the African people in Nigeria? I hate calling them just Nigerians, but I want to refer to them as African people, because those resources, all of them belong to us as Africans. Once Nigeria is well, the rest of the African continent will be well. Once South Africa is well, the rest of the African continent will be well. But if we have any part of the continent is not well, that is not well, then just know that all the other parts of the continent will not be well. Like how you have seen instability in the Sahel, you have seen instability in the Democratic Republic of Congo, that if it is not stable, then the surrounding areas like Uganda, they will not be stable. If Sudan is not stable, then the surrounding areas are going to be concerned. Ethiopia is concerned because now it has to deal with a lot of refugees who are coming from Sudan. So these are the issues which we are talking about. If Burkina is not stable, you see that Ghana will be worried. If all the other countries, Mali, they are not stable, no one is safe unless all of us are safe on this African continent, and no one is well unless all of us are well. With regards to the economic development and rapid development and the welfare of all of us. So we should take care of ourselves. All of us, we should take care of each other on this continent. And that means looking after our resources very well as African people. So I want to thank you once again. So buckle up. It is time for us to get down to business.
I like that as we are going to dissect the new president-elect of Nigeria, who is just 3 weeks old. I think he resumed his term on 29th of May. So I would say this. I was reading an article that was saying actually once President Tinubu said his lifelong ambition is to be the president of Nigeria. One can say that his dream has come true, although the result of the election is a contested one. And despite still we have seen, around 20 presidents in the world have attended of his inauguration as a president of Nigeria. We have seen those who we did really an analysis, as I said, like 10 days ago. I'm going to put that link on the chat section, and please refer to that. But yeah, despite that, the world leaders have congratulated him. The first ones are the West, the US, the UK, and you know exactly what it means when those ones are in the forefront to congratulate you. That says a lot. Because that means you are their trusted ally. I mean, whatever reason we are putting. So far in 3 weeks, Kwame, what are the takeaways from his 2 weeks or 3 weeks term in his office?
Mahlet, it is fortunate that even when President Tinubu was just being sworn in, we came here and analyzed and
Yeah.
put out our expectations as African people. Uh, just to remind our guests, we did an analysis. We did a look at President Tinubu's inauguration, and we talked about also President Buhari, who came out of office, who finished his term of office, his second term in office. Of course, some other people would say that his third term because he has ever ruled in Nigeria under a military regime. But President Buhari went out of office, and we welcomed Tinubu. And of course, if you ask the young people, as we mentioned, if you ask the young people whether this is the leader they wanted, they will tell you that this is not the leader they wanted. But for some reasons, which the young people, of course, are not satisfied with, especially the youth, Tinubu was able to go through, and there is questions to his going through as a president, of course, and other people, they looked at it, especially the youth, the African youth, looked at it as a continuation of the legacy, the incompetent legacy, or the legacy of incompetence, which was left by people like, Jonathan Goodluck, the same legacy of incompetence, which was left by President Buhari, who just left office. So we put out our expectations. But when you assess from what he was saying, during the campaigns, you can see that the expectations are really not that, they are not really very good. There's no, you don't see a lot of hope, even in his speeches, whatever he talked about, but the speech was not that strong to paint, a rosy picture, or to paint a hopeful Nigeria, a Nigeria that people should be optimistic about. And lo and behold, our analysis is like it is coming right now, and it is playing out in real time right now, because once he came to office, immediately the first thing he did is the removal of subsidies. So when you look at the removal of subsidies, this is not something you can say, okay, some other people have said it is good because Nigeria has been spending a lot of money, but if Nigeria is not spending money on its poor people, then where should Nigeria be spending that money? Should Nigeria be spending the money on the rich people? Should it be subsidizing the rich, like how they are subsidizing the rich senators already, the politicians, the middle class, which is already in power? Is that where, the leadership should be spending money? I mean, these are the questions we should be asking. So if you remove subsidies, which are helping the poor people, of course, with the claim that these subsidies are a burden to the state, yet on one side, Dangote oil refinery has launched, and then we are talking about that foreign currency or foreign revenue, which is necessary, is going to be retained in the country. Then that becomes questionable. That type of policy becomes questionable. So these are the things which we want to look at. We want to look at in detail, but these are the policies he has come with. Uh, the other policy which I saw that is a red flag actually is the fact that his advisory council, which he instituted, immediately has sprung into action and is trying to advise him on selling the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, which is NNPC, which is a state-owned corporation, and this corporation was put up with taxpayers' money. The corporation was put up with taxpayers' money. Mahlet, I'd like you to put up that on the screen so that people can see that article where it was published. They are trying to sell, this company, this corporation, which is supposed to be holding the interests of the Nigerian people in the oil sector, because Nigeria is the biggest oil producer on the continent. And oil is the major foreign exchange earner, is the major source of revenue for Nigeria as a state. So this, from our understanding, means that the Nigerian people should also have a stake in the oil fields, in the major source of revenue for the state. But his advisors, now they are talking about selling the stake in the Nigeria National Oil Petroleum Corporation, which is supposed to be, to belong to Nigerian people, which was put up with Nigeria's, the taxpayers' money. And this goes on to remind us also about the policy, the so-called policy of privatization, which was instituted way back, which has been actually very painful for the Nigerian people. Corporations were destroyed to the point that Nigeria, in the process, became a net importer of all products, including manufacturing, including construction, rice, and all these, sugar, because the corporations, the West, World Bank and IMF advised the leaders that they should sell all the companies which were owned by the state. So on the solutions, we will come and look at it. But on the whole, these are the policies President Tinubu has started with. And whether these policies give anyone hope who is out there watching, whether these policies give anyone hope, they are a source of hope, I think is for the audience to judge. But from our standing point, from our point of view, we really don't see any reason for optimism in the administration of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu for the time being.
Interesting. Yeah, those shows major policy change, which one can call red flags. Now, the fuel subsidy that he removed is actually supported by some of the people, like the president of the African Development Bank, Dr. I forgot his name, but he's from Nigeria. Now, this subsidy that he removed, is this going to help the country, or it's going to cause more pain? And is there any other option actually that he would have done, or the advisors would have advised the president?
One of the mistakes the African elites make, or majorly the people who are living well, who are well off, the mistake they make is to think, about the poor and the unfortunate in society in their own image. And that is a very huge mistake. When you are talking about President Adesina Akinibu, Adesina of the African Development Bank. I mean, he has his convictions, but in reality, these they don't measure up. For whatever reason, he's supporting President Tinubu. I don't know whether the president, of the African Development Bank also he has hopes of going back to Nigeria and becoming the president of Nigeria. Probably he has those hopes, maybe. But to remove these subsidies, which are helping the poor, the people who are driving Okada, who are driving the taxis on the streets, people who are hustling on the street, in Lagos, in Abuja, people are hustling on the streets. The subsidies actually they doubled the price. So how do you expect people to survive under these harsh conditions? These are sort of like structural adjustments which were unleashed in the 1970s, 1980s by the World Bank. Of course, together with our African middle class and ruling class, who were justifying them. And they were saying that they are good for us. We should, restructure our economies. They used a lot of words.
Yeah.
Economic development, we want sustainability, we want debt sustainability. They were using a lot of huge words, big words, to confuse the layman, the average person, the common person. They were using a lot of big words. And so this is what we are seeing even right now. Subsidy, removal of subsidy, and they will justify it. And this is the middle class. This is the behavior of the ruling class, how it behaves. But these subsidies, they are supposed to help the poor, and the state should be able to do that for the poor. I mean, the justification was that it is the rich who are using these subsidies. So if you are saying that the rich are the ones who are using the subsidies, what about the data we have as a state? The data, Nigeria, the federal government of Nigeria has been collecting digital data. This digital data is supposed to identify the people who qualify for the subsidies. So if you cannot identify the people who qualify for the subsidies, when you have digital data to know who should qualify, who is in which income bracket, I mean, this becomes unfortunate. And that means, this goes to show you that this is not about the state being overburdened, and it is not about these subsidies being reused by the rich, because that is the claim, that the subsidies are being used by the rich. So why don't we filter out? Because we have the data. Let this be scientific. We have the data. Let us filter out and say people of this class and this class, and then give coupons. Of course, we can give coupons to the poor. We have the data. We have the phone numbers. So people, when they go to petrol stations, certain people should qualify, especially the poor, but they should not remove subsidies as a group with the claim that the rich people are the ones benefiting, from the fuel subsidies. So if you are saying that you are removing the fuel subsidies, then you remove these fuel subsidies also from the Nigerian senators, the politicians who are driving huge cars, big cars. And these people, they're already taking huge salaries. But they don't want to do that. This is not something which they don't want to do. So that policy, there was another way in which it could have been applied to save the Nigerian state a lot of revenue. Considering that the Dangote oil refinery has just been commissioned, which is going to start pumping out oil, and is going to help the country to save a lot of revenue, a lot of foreign currency, a lot of foreign reserves. It's going to help the country to save all those that money that has been spent. They have been spending almost 500,000. Almost I think it's around 400,000 barrels of oil, which have been imported every day. Nigeria, the Dangote oil refinery is going to be able to cover that. So all that money is going to be saved for the country. So this means that the country should be able to continue the subsidies, should be able to subsidize at least the most unfortunate in society, those people who are poor in society. So this is my observation on this issue, on this policy, on this particular policy.
So we understand that already the removal of the subsidy has happened and it's applied, right? So is this like a major loss for the revenue of Nigeria's oil industry? If not, as we understand, what are the major leaks and why not addressing those?
Yeah, so the claim that this is a major loss to the state because they give subsidies, of course, does not hold water. You know, this argument does not hold water like we have seen. Use the data and filter out the people who qualify and those who don't qualify. But it is a false claim. It is a false claim for the rich to continue to enrich themselves at the expense of the poor in the country. And this is what we are seeing. This actually is not the major leakage or the major loss to the state. The major loss, as we have seen, to the country, if you can put up that screen for me, the major loss to the state, it is not, the Nigerian people who are consuming. Is not the Nigerian people who are consuming the money that you want to justify and say it is the subsidies which are a burden to the state. It is not. So evidence tells us otherwise. Evidence is telling us otherwise, that the loss to Nigeria is being brought out by the oil theft. Because monthly, $700 million is being lost. $700 million to oil theft. And what have we discovered? What did the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation discover? It discovered, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation discovered that there was an oil pipeline which has been siphoning off oil, and that oil pipeline has been used to steal oil and is connected to the sea, but it has been used to steal oil for 9 years, for 9 good years. And this oil pipeline is connected to a terminal. It's called the Fashado's terminal. The Fashado's terminal is operated by Shell, which is a Western corporation. You see? So I think this also somehow explains why they want to sell the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation. Because this news was last year's news around October. The Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation discovered that this pipeline has been siphoning off oil for 9 years and it is operated by Shell. So this is what is going on in Nigeria, that there is huge amounts of theft. There's huge amount of theft that is going on by Shell and other petroleum corporations.
But I have a question. How Shell is allowed after this discovery to continue to operate? We are seeing here the headline in the article is that Nigeria wants the West for oil theft, bombards Shell in the process. How is it allowed?
Of course, Shell is so huge. If you look at it as a company, it has, I think, a worth of more than $200 billion. $200 billion. So it's so huge that to a certain extent, Shell took over the Nigerian government. And the Nigerian government works for Shell. It works for Shell. That is why if there's any demonstration against Shell's activities like the pollution, because there's a lot of pollution which has been happening in the Niger Delta. When people rose up to demonstrate against this, Shell paid the Nigerian government and called on the Nigerian government and Nigerian army under the government of President Sani Abacha, who died, the dictator Sani Abacha, and they killed the activists who were demonstrating against this pollution which Shell was doing in the Niger Delta. And some of them were hanged and executed. People like Sonny, Sarowiwa, Kenny Sarowiwa, who was a very big activist, environmental activist, who was organizing the people of Ogoni land, because this is where Shell was polluting. So on top of the pollution which Shell is doing in Nigeria, it is now also stealing the oil, and on top of that, it has bought out to the Nigerian government. That the politicians work for Shell, and they wait. The Nigerian government is just putting ball. I mean, for Shell to put money in every month or every year from the oil revenue, and this is how far neocolonialism has gone in Nigeria. And this is what we spoke about last time, that Nigeria is punching below its weight, considering its status on the continent, that it is the most populous country on the African continent. We expect a lot from Nigeria, and we want it to be more in protecting the interests of the African people. But it looks like the Nigerian heads of state and leaders of this era and the past era, they are not interested in protecting the interests of the African people. They are interested in protecting their own interest. They are not interested in the interests of the African people, whether in Nigeria or anywhere on the African continent. So this is the problem which we have today, that Shell has become the owner of the country, Nigeria, as it is today.
Such a big country, giant in economy, in terms of manpower, a lot of young minds, innovative, creative. It's just sad that it did not get the leadership that it deserves. As we always say here, Connect Africa is a Pan-African platform. So non-apologetically, we bring things that we discuss, issues from the Pan-African perspective. So today, not only we speak about the problem, but we are also speaking, what are the options for this. So I would like to ask you, Kwame, let's look at this now, this problem, or finding a solution from the Pan-African perspective, meaning the solution to Nigeria's predicament. If it was given to a Pan-Africanist leader, people like you, for example, how do you solve Nigerians' problem?
Thank you that you even brought that kind of question, because in many cases, in many situations, we are so occupied as African people. In many situations, we are so occupied with problems that we don't look at the solutions. But the solutions are there, and for us to be able to implement those solutions, we have to work at it, and we have to work together, because now we have a wedge, we have a line. We are so disconnected from our heads of state on the African continent. Majority of them, there is some who are good, but majority of them, we are so disconnected to them. So that means they have crossed the line, that they are on the side of the colonizers now for them, because Shell is a colonizer corporation, which is enriching the West.
Yeah.
Is a corporation like how you can see West India, I think it was called East India Company. Those are the colonization corporations of today. So unless we work together, we cannot confront, unless we work together as Africans, we cannot confront this kind of power of our heads of state who have connived with the colonizers to take what belongs to us. So I believe that the Nigerian oil sector needs absolute structuring. It has to be restructured, and it has to be restructured in such a way that the Nigerian people have to retain and own at least 60% of the revenue that comes from every single barrel of oil that comes out of the ground. And this should be at all cost. This business of having leaders who are joking around with the vital resources which are non-renewable. This oil is non-renewable. That what they take from the ground, it doesn't come back. And this is what has been happening. They have been pumping and pumping. So the oil industry in Nigeria, the oil sector needs absolute restructuring, with Nigeria owning around 60%. The Nigerian people, actually, when you say Nigeria, it becomes as if it is an ambiguous situation, something which is non-existent. The Nigerian people, the African people in Nigeria, have to own about 60%. They have to own 60% of all the oil revenue that comes from each barrel of oil. This is how I would go about this situation. The joking business of, playing around with these resources, it has to be stopped. And there has to be a very serious change. It cannot be business as usual. It cannot be business as usual. These are the solutions that we should be asking for. These are the demands we should be making as African people. The subsidies, with this being said, you have 4 oil refineries which have not been working, that were built for Nigeria. 4 of them, they have to be reactivated. Subsidies have to stay. You have Dangote oil refinery, and then you have the 4 oil refinery. They have to be made to work. It cannot be an excuse that we will sell off everything and claim that we cannot manage it. I mean, where are the people who are going to manage these refineries coming from? Are they from heaven? Are they some godly beings? Are they angels that they are going to bring to manage these refineries?
Yeah.
I mean, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that you say we should sell off and we cannot manage it. Nigeria has some of the smartest people on this African continent. You cannot
Yeah.
say that. You cannot say that we are going to sell off our assets because we cannot manage them. That is a declaration of incompetency on the side of government. When you do such a thing, that is a declaration of incompetence, that we cannot manage anything. So how are you going to manage the government if you cannot manage the resources of the people? I mean, it's absolute incompetence. This is a declaration of incompetence. So I believe that management, the sector has to be restructured. The refineries have to be reactivated. We have to hire, whether we hire them, these people from different parts of the African continent, starting with the CEOs from other African countries, to come and restructure these oil refineries and work on them so that they can operate. If we cannot, then let's bring in the Chinese to operate them for us as CEOs. Let's bring the Europeans from Norway to come and operate them as CEOs and restructure them and make them operational, and make them independent, and make them operational, so that they can make money for the African people in Nigeria. The subsidies have to stay for the poor and the average. We have mentioned this. If there's anyone where the subsidies have to be removed, let the subsidies be removed from the government officials who have huge cars, who have huge salaries already, but not the poor. Not the poor. This is the use of the data, the digital data that has been collected on all citizens of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and for that matter, all across the African continent. There has been the collection of digital data on all African people. So this data, if anything, if we are serious and we are working, if the government is working, unless the government is not working, what is the Statistics Bureau in Nigeria, or the ministry which has to deal with statistics, the Ministry of Finance? It should be able to sift through this data. it should be able to filter this data so that they can get the people who qualify for subsidies. But the excuse of removing subsidies with the claim that it is benefiting the rich, that does not hold water. It does not hold water. Because even when you look at this in this situation, and you say you give subsidies to, or to the poor, you filter them and give it to the poor. In the long run, it helps to, in income redistribution. Also, by taking money from the rich and giving to the poor who are majority. Through this redistribution will be like a natural sort of redistribution of wealth in the government. So the government, the federal government, Federal Republic of Nigeria has to start working and get serious. It has to get to work and stop joking. The Nigerian, the other point which I think is that the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation, it has to be restructured. It has to be restructured and be given independence. It has to be independent from the Federal Republic, from the state, from the government. CEOs should be put there to operate the corporation. If someone cannot, transform this corporation within 2 years, then he has to go out. Bring another CEO. Not appointing. They should not be appointed. These people should compete on merit. They should be qualified people with master's degrees in petroleum engineering. And they should run the NNPC to make it a world-class platform which takes care of the interests of the African people. Jobs should be advertised and people should compete for this job. The talk of selling the stake, the stake of the African people in the NNPC or the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation is not the answer to Nigeria's problems. Liberalization did not work in the 80s, the 70s, and the 90s, and it is not going to work today. It did not work. It instead brought unbelievable misery. So, for God's sake, the Nigerian National Petroleum Corporation and Nigeria have to be turned into major players on the African continent, who are deeply integrated into the continent, into the African continent. The 4 redundant refineries, plus the Dangote oil refinery, should be turned into serious businesses to the service of the African continent and the major West African region and the continent. I mean, there has to be some serious condemnation of unseriousness of leadership, the laziness around the management of resources which are supposed, resources upon which the lives of people, the lives of majority of the African people depend on. There has to be condemnation of any incompetence surrounding the management of those resources, because these resources are a matter of life and death. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Kwame. I do feel you. The anger and definitely we share what you said. The Nigerian people, much of the stock should be owned by the Nigerian people or Africans living in Nigeria. Let me just read some of the comments here. CNDS said, the main reason such corporations are allowed to continue operations no matter what they do is, meaning companies like Shell, is that they fund politics in their home countries. And that money finds its way into Africa in the form of aid. charity donations, whatever you call it,
Absolutely.
as he said,
Absolutely. What
innocent
he's saying is
sounding
right.
names. Yeah.
Yes, what he's saying is right. That is the same money these corporations take and put in the World Bank and IMF. And our people, our heads of state, in their naivety, I mean, in their unthoughtfulness, they go and borrow the same money which belongs to us, the same money which belongs to them. Instead of blocking the money, like we saw President Magufuli, what he was doing. He was blocking the money from going. And they were not happy with him because he was blocking. He realized that you don't need to go to borrow to the IMF, actually. That's what President Magufuli did. And he was able to do projects without borrowing a single currency. Tanzania is the only country which attained a middle status income, a middle income status during the COVID when everyone was locking down. When economies were collapsing, Tanzania was going up under President Magufuli. During the COVID period, when economies were collapsing, Tanzania was attaining a middle income status. So the resources have to be blocked from going. Because when we block these resources, which are going out, and they are lying to us that they are giving us aid, then we will not need even to borrow. We don't need to borrow. But it's because of lack of strategic thinking. And this is the new way we are supposed to bring. This is the new conversation we as young people we are supposed to be bringing. And we have to be firm. We cannot afford not to be firm. This generation of youth, of African youth, of young people, we have to be firm and convinced that we will manage the resources of this continent much better for the coming generation, much better for the next 2, 3, 10 coming generations. We should be able to establish that, but we have to start now and be firm in that aspect and that regard.
Definitely. Yeah, very true. So we've got covered most of our, I think, all that what we need, the answers that we need regarding what is the takeaway, what is President Bola Tinubu is doing to Nigeria. So those are the things, especially Nigerians or Africans who live in Nigeria. We want to hear you even after this stream is through. Please do comment below in the comment section, and we want to hear what's your view on this. For us, that's it. We will be back in addition to next week, in addition to every Tuesday and Thursday. We will be here again, myself and Kwame, to actually analyze the recent move. I think we all heard it yesterday, that France wanting or asking actually an invitation to attend BRICS or yeah, something like that.
To join. It wants
Asking
actually
to join, right? Yeah,
Yes.
I like
Not even attending.
yeah, to
It is
join
beyond
BRICS.
attending. They want both to attend and join. Also, they want the two of them.
And they want invitation in instead of even the nature of it, like
Instead of
you want to
applying, they
be
are ridiculous.
invited. You asking to join is one thing, but asking invitation to
I mean, they are
join
ridiculous. They are ridiculous. They are just ridiculous.
arrogance,
I mean, it's arrogance. It's typical European arrogance. It's typical European arrogance. Is what we are seeing.
as
They
I
should
said,
do it.
I realized it, like to ask to join, just like any African countries, Middle Eastern countries. I mean, there are many in line who are asking, let's join. But to be, who are you? You know?
Self-importance. I mean, they want to be looked at as self-important. Europeans, they have, they feel self-important. Even something which they're supposed to beg, they still want to show that they feel,
Yeah.
they want to feel that self-importance still. I mean, it's just ridiculous.
So I can't wait for that discussion. It's Macron has continued to confuse us. the confuse and convince policy I think he's trying to follow. But yeah, we will be here on Monday with Kwame. Definitely, I think there will be some developments regarding that. But if not, we do analyze that. You know, the courage itself, the nerve asking for invitation to join. Please, we want to be here, as we say, always say, more often, because there is a lots of things happening in the continent, also globally, that affects our continent. So we want to talk about it. We want to give you the Pan-African perspective of it, our research. We want to share with you. However, we are limited. So please support our channel through our PayPal account. I'm going to put it in the minute, in a few minutes, or if not, you will get it when this is through in the description section of the video. So support our channel in any way you can, and that will help us for us to be here. And in addition to that, it's also important for us if you share this video with others, with your own network, so that we can empower each other with information and knowledge. That's why we are here. Kwame, really, as usual, thank you very much. Then we will see you again, unless you want to say something as a closing. That's a
Yeah,
fine.
we just want to appreciate everyone who has been with us from the beginning. Mahlet mentioned it very well. You have to support the channel. You have to work with us. You have to help us, to reach, to walk this journey without much difficulty. We understand that it's going to be challenging, and it is challenging, but you have to help us walk this journey of liberating Africa with less difficulty, and that less difficult comes with your support. So we ask you to support us on this journey in which we are, by starting with the channel and then reaching out and give us some help. Like we mentioned, we are on the front line already. So work is going on, and we will continue to communicate whatever we are doing. Those ones who want to be involved directly with us and what we are doing, we also welcome you to come and let's dialogue about these issues. We want to thank you and have a good night, good day, good morning, and good afternoon anywhere where you are across the globe. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Black. I see you. I read you. Thank you very much. So continue tuning every Tuesday and Thursday when we have live session, and other days as well. Bring more people. Thank you very much. And if you have any other topic you want us to analyze, I forgot to say that, please write it in the comment section, so we will look at it, do our research, and come back to you to share it. Have a good evening. Yes, bye bye. Bye, Kwame.